Yo, what's up, family? How you guys doing today? So today I just want to talk to you guys about some reasons why financial education is just so important. So we live in a day pretty much where money just kind of runs our life. So financial education just makes sense. Now, a lot of times when we talk about financial education or you hear people talking about it, the concept or the idea always comes up like, well, it should be taught in the schools. Well, typically it's just not going to be taught in schools. Maybe one day, but I just don't really see that happening, in our future. So financial education, why is it so important? It's very important because money pretty much runs our everyday life. So just think about it. If you're watching this video, why did you get up this morning and go to work? For most people, it wasn't because you love that job so much. For most people, it's because they need to make money. And so every day people get up and they go to work because they need to make money because they have bills. And of course, they have things they want to do, like maybe buy something or maybe go traveling and things of that nature. But for the most part, we want to take care of those bills. At least that's how it is in my culture. I know in some other cultures it's not necessarily the case, but in my culture, it's definitely the case. Now, a lot of people think that the only way they could ever succeed or they could ever do very well financially is, they got to be a celebrity, they got to be in movies, they got to rap or be a music artist, or they got to play sports, or they got to own a company or something like that where they can, make a lot of money. And the truth is, that's just not the case. There are people who have been able to, be very successful financially, even accumulate millions of dollars, and they're not known, they're not famous, they don't rap, they just work a typical job. And one of the big keys to being able to do that is just knowing how to make your money work for you. We work so much and we put it so much time into just generating income, working to pay bills and things of that nature. But most cases, a lot of people never think, how can I make what I'm doing now, what I have, how can I make that work for me? Now, in the header on my channel, where you see the Get Smart University, underneath it, you see it says something like, it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you spend. And that's very true, because you can make a whole lot of money and still not have any money left. If you make $1 million and you spend $1 million, how much do you have? So one of the reasons why financial education is so important is because you need to know how to take whatever it is that you're getting right now. Don't worry too much about what you're going to get. Start working now and understanding what you can do right now and start shaping those habits and building those disciplines so that when you do get more money, then guess what? You're going to do a lot better with it because you've already created those habits. It's funny, we just had the NCAA tournament, and one of the conversations I was having with a friend is we were just talking about how much money that the schools make and the NCAA makes from these college students playing ball and how much income that generates for them, but yet the students don't get anything. And one of the big issues with college players and they go to the NBA, a lot of professional sports athletes as a whole, when they make that transition, they normally can't handle the money. They get the bad agents, they blow through money, they're buying up all this stuff. They don't know really how to take care of it. Unfortunately, because the average lifespan of a athlete, far as how their career life, it's not as long. It's not 10 years. It's very short. Sometimes 3, 4 to 5 years is their lifespan in their sports career, just because of the nature of the sports. And so they get millions of dollars and then they blow right through it, and then they have nothing left to show for it. And one of the reasons is because they're not really prepared for it. So imagine if in the NCAA tournament, if they allowed kids to, get paid or have to, learn how to manage those situations and things beforehand, then maybe when they went to the pros, it might not be as difficult. And all I'm trying to say is there's a big difference when you learn how to take care of and to be responsible with what you have now. And then when you get something greater, then guess what? You'll be able to do the same thing. A lot of times when people are going through hard times, and when people want to really make it and things like that, they always often look and say, I can't wait till I'm making more money, or, you just need to make more money. And yes, that's fine. Nothing's wrong with making more money. However, you need to educate yourself on how to take care of things where you are, whether it's enough or it's not. You need to learn discipline. You need to learn some type of habits because, as I stated, when you move on, you're going to need those things. In fact, it's one of the very reasons why you want to educate yourself as much as you can around money, because most people typically learn money through their household. It's rare that people are able to grow up in a situation and be completely attached from it. Your environment kind of helps to shape those first thoughts about a situation, and especially money. So if you grew up in a household where things were tough and things were, weren't working out, or you were poor or whatever, then you kind of have your own foundation about how you look at money from that. And yes, you can change that in the future. Yes, you can move on from that. Yes, you can grow from that and not have to duplicate the same things. But it definitely impacts, you a lot, what you learn about money in your household. We put a lot of pressure on the schools to teach about money, and the school system is just not going to go that way. Yeah, I know. Yeah, they teach you how to balance your checks. But who's writing checks nowadays? Not really anybody. But we're talking about real financial education. And yes, it would be nice if the schools did teach you about those things, teach you about investing, teach you about those things, because that's going to be like the number one of the top things you think about, when you get, out of school is, what I'm going to do with this money. How am I going to pay these bills? It brings a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress. A lot of college students that I've talked to, they're very worried about what happens outside of college because, in this day and time, going to school and getting a college degree doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to do well. In fact, the college national debt, the student loan debt, is $1.5 trillion. It's the largest national debt we have, and right behind that is credit cards. So we're a nation of people that owe a lot of money. So let me backtrack. So learning about finances, learning about investing, learning about taking care of money and budgeting, those are also good things that you can also teach within your household, within the family structure. A lot of people learn about money through the family structure. Either they learn, hey, investing is good, or they learn to stay away from investing. You don't know what happens. You can lose all your money. They learn fear, or they learn confidence. They learn scarcity. They learn abundance. They learn all these different things within their household when it concerns finances. And let me say, and specifically for my race in particular, we have such a hard time with knowing how to take care of our money. We make a lot of money, and most of the money goes out of the door. So now the lack of preparation of understanding or knowing about money or being taught about money and things like that really, really matter, they actually affect us as we become adults. And whether the statistics show it or not, the reality is there are a lot of people who struggle, and statistics can be, manipulated. It doesn't necessarily show the whole picture. But there are a lot of people who are struggling. And just because they don't make a whole lot of money doesn't mean they have to struggle. There are so many stories of people who worked and only made no more than $15 an hour and have been able to accumulate portfolios of $500,000 or millions of dollars. Like if you're watching in my videos, sometimes I talk about an experience I had when I was just learning about investing. I used to go to this gym. And coming out the gym, there was always a gentleman that would, he was checking you in the gym and checking people out. His name was Pete. Pete was an older gentleman. He worked as an accountant, never made any more than $50,000 a year, but Pete had millions of dollars in the bank. The reason behind that is Pete was an investor. He invested in stocks, he invested in funds, and he had a consistent habit about doing that, as well as his income ratio to debt was, in a good position. Basically meaning that, the money, he didn't live above his means. He lived below his means. And at his age, he was starting to, think about retirement. He was in his 50s and he was working part-time, at the gym. And you would never know that he had these millions of dollars in the bank. And yes, I know, because this is something that we developed a conversation around, and he became very transparent, and he would start to show me, his personal assets. And so we'd be talking right there at the desk, and he'd pull his laptop around, and we'd talk about investments and things like that, and different stocks and stuff like that. All I'm saying is, you can still make the money that you make and still put yourself in a great financial position. Like you've probably watched on YouTube, if you're really serious about learning about money, you've probably seen where people talk about how they've been able to pay their house off early and yada, yada, yada. So it's possible for you. As well as myself personally, I'm someone that doesn't come from money. I grew up in the hood. I know what it means to be broke. I know what it means to be poor. I know it's like the struggle. I've been laid off from my job. I understand all the mechanics that can happen that can put you in a bad financial spot. But through my learning and growing for years and years and years, and disciplining myself and doing things, a certain way, putting my money here, putting my money there, not doing this, not spending money and things like that, I've been able to succeed through all those things. So what's even just be possible for me, and even at my level and where I am, like I remember those days, not just as I was growing up, but even as, I became an adult, and how, I struggled in my early adult years, like really, really hard, because I didn't really know what to do with the money. I was making a certain amount, and then that's pretty much what I was spending every month because of bills. No one ever told me like, hey, if you make this amount, this is a certain percentage, like 30-40% should be, pretty much the percentage that you spend from how much you make, for your living. I didn't know that. If I knew that, I just would have never moved out for a while. I would have stayed at home for a while. But it's not something that anyone taught me. It's not something that my family taught me, because they didn't know. So I can't fault them if they didn't know it. And yes, some people say, well, they could have learned, just like we learned it. Well, no, they didn't have access to things like we have access now. You can learn just about anything through the internet. They didn't have that back then. They didn't. In my generation, my family, my those before me, like my mom, things like that, they didn't have access to the things that we have access to now. So we can't say that. So all in all, the frustration behind trying to get ahead and not knowing what to do, and just suffering, and being in an apartment with no lights, no cable, and going grocery shopping at the dollar store. Yeah, don't sleep on the dollar store. The dollar store is a nice place to go shopping. Like, I still go to the dollar store now. It's dope. But those are things that I experienced in my adult years of just struggle and going through different things, and cars breaking down, not having the money to pay for it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that frustration in my early 20s just pushed me to start learning about money. Like, I obsessed over it. Like, I would go to the library because I didn't have time to do too many other things, and I would get books and just read about, Warren Buffett, read about, finance for dummies, how to fix your credit for dummies, all this stuff that I had no clue about, that no one ever taught me about. Because something they also don't teach you about is inflation. And the inflation rate in the US right now is just like 2%. Basically, every year, things are getting more expensive. That's basically what that means. Well, if you're not, taking care of your money, like most people talk about saving their money. Well, that's nice. It's nice to have some money in savings. But here's the flip side to that. Your savings is not necessarily making any money. And if it's in a traditional bank, it's probably making like, 0.1 or 0.2, something real stupid percent. Now, they do have like online banks, or banks that are not necessarily tied to, the typical infrastructure that, you can get 2% within that bank, which is a lot better than 0.1%. And so basically, your money will still grow some. But the problem is that you have money that's sitting, and you have an economy that the price of living is steadily increasing, and the price of living is increasing like this, and your money is increasing like this. And so what happens is you get older, and yes, you typically need less money as you get older, but the problem is you got to have it. And most people don't have that money that they need, because the price and the cost of living has changed over the years. And so then they go back to work, and they work part-time jobs, and they try to beef up their 401ks, and it's still not quite enough. And yes, there are some people that they're able to invest in their 401ks and all this other stuff, and it is enough, but that's not the majority of people. So majority of people, when they leave this earth, when they pass on, they leave behind a whole bunch of liability and a whole lot of debt and things that their family has to take care of. When you start to learn about financial education, you can learn about how to take the money that you have now, and that money that you have now can be worth so much more in the future if you learn how to invest it right, and you acquire the right disciplines, the right habits. And then you're able to teach that to generations underneath you, your kids and things like that. And that will be able to help create a different flow into your family structure. And I mean, there's just so much more that we could talk about why financial education is so important, why it's so vital. It is crucial. It has to be at the top of your list. That's my opinion. I feel like it needs to be like at the top of your list. Learning how to take care of your money. Because money runs so much of your day, you need to learn how to take care of it, because your money has been successfully making everybody else rich, but it has not been doing anything for your family, because you're just paying bills. And you have to understand, you're not a person that was put here just to pay bills and to, work and to pay bills and to work, and then you die and you pass on. Life has so much more meaning. And one of the places that will help you to start to see that is learning about finances. So that's it, guys. I can maybe do a part 2 video where I can, dive into statistics and even go a little more depth, but just want to kind of, just talk a little bit about why financial education is so important. I see so many people like struggling with so many different things, and it hurts my heart because, if they just had known, it's like one of those things, like some of the stuff we go through, we didn't necessarily have to go through if, we knew certain things growing up, or if we knew how to do these things. And a lot of times people are going through different things because they're just void of the information. They don't have it, they don't know it, they haven't learned it. But anyways, I'll see you guys on the next video. Talk to you soon.